These brushes here are really only meant for super simple blocking out things. But the pedal we want to do more complex things with, so we wouldn't do this. So this, for example, in the game cannot move. Okay, it's static, it's there, it cannot move, it's collision, cannot. So for that reason, I include this little cube here. And this cube is, if you take a look here, we have now the two brushes, we have the light, and we have this cube. And this cube is a static mesh actor. So this is automatically, in the moment I place it, I have a transform that's called, so location, rotation, scale. If I can move it, if it's static, then it has the mesh itself, the material it is using. So currently it's basic shape material. Collision, but we will come to that later. So for now, we just want to see the size of the stuff. So let's see how big. I mean, it's not something completely playable. Maybe by making the prototype, you're making decisions. So now we have to decide how big the pedal is. This makes no sense. I would move the pedal like this. So this is too big. So we need to make a smaller pedal. By the way, for this ones here up there, I can change moving and rotation and scale. They are also shortcuts. It's W, E, and R. So that's what I'm doing here. So I use my keyboard to switch fastly between those. So let's find a good size. I could do it here. So let's maybe look first. We can move down. The light by changing, yeah, something like this, and the light is really bright. So yeah, let's make 3. This is okay. So currently it's black and white. Have this here. So this is okay looking from the sides. It's for now to get a feeling for it. So let's say it's 1.8 or something, and then I have the feeling it's too thick, so we make it a little bit like 0.5, something like that. Now that looks not too bad. So we put it here, and I can move it around and can try like here, but I can make my. I say, okay, how does it feel? Yeah, that's a good movement left and right. So let's keep it like that for now. So I have my pedal. So next, what we want to do is have some bricks. So the bricks, if I take a look on the picture, look a little bit the same size like this one. So for now I can hold Alt and then I can make a copy. But also click here and make a copy, or I can click here and then I use Control W and I can make a copy. So there are different ways to Alt and then move it out. And another nice thing is currently here you have some snapping tools. So if you take a look at this value, then it's changing in steps by 10. I can make this, for example, 50. Then it's like 100. And you see in the background the grid is also changing to the. Is it my PC that's making this? No? Okay. So I can have this grid helping me to place the stuff in a good way. So let's make it 100. Now let's make it 50 back. I think 50 is better. Let's set it back to 0. And then I can like copy it. It's empty. So we're changing the sound. I can do it like this. Thank you. Okay, so I still think it's a little bit too long, so let's do something like this. Okay, so now I have one prick, but I need more. So what I can do is I select this, I hold Alt, and then I can, oops, draw it over, but not in Z. So and then I can select also with holding. I could select here. So holding Shift and going down, or I can select here, holding Control and selecting them, and then when I hold Alt again, I can copy the whole line. So really nice and really fast. So now I have already something that looks a little bit like what we were talking about. I love this moment. I still, it still feels so cool to just make some clicks and then you have something like this. I don't know it's for you, but I find this, even after 20 years, it feels so good to do this. So this is nice. And now I think this is maybe also too, so let's make this smaller again. That's maybe too small. Okay, so now I have something that looks like a field. So if I press play, I have the same again. I have nothing set up, so I'm just a spectator flying around. So now comes the camera. So we want to have a good feeling about what it really looks like in camera. So again, here's a lot of stuff you can place and you can tinker around by yourself. And there is, for cinematic, there is stuff, and there is visual stuff like post-process, and some of the stuff we will even use. And there's also, you can also search for things like camera. So and then I find a camera here. So you have different cameras. There are super fancy cinematic cameras. We go first with a more simple one that's more appropriate for games. Because you have to understand the engine is not only made for games, it has a lot of stuff also for other industries, which is cool because when you learn the basics here for this, you are able to work also in other industries because they begin to use this. So I have the camera here, so let's put the camera first also on 0, 0, 0. And here, when I have this camera selected, here you see what the camera is seeing. So if I would move the camera around here, you see, then the camera is changed. So I'm on the field right now, which is nice. We could make the game now out of the view of the ball if we would like to. Maybe this is super stupid, we bounce around, but we can, if we are fast enough, we can maybe tinker around and do some crazy stuff just for fun. So I have this camera now. So let's make the camera look down, so 90-degree down. So I could either make it here or there. And then let's move the camera up until we see the feet. So you see here it's becoming, okay, a little further, like this. Okay, so this looks good. I could also right-click the camera and say pilot camera. Now I am the camera actually. And when I would move around now, I could do this. I could move around like this. And then I can eject the camera, then you can see now I have placed the camera where I put it. So it's really nice. So I can jump into the camera, be the camera, move it around, and then have a nice spot, and then save this spot by ejecting. But that's not what we want, so I make undo, and here we are. So here is this now. So again, when I start the game, I'm still not the camera. You know, I have to tell the engine, hey, by the way, this is a camera I want to use. So there are different ways. There are right ways and wrong ways, and there are hacky ways. So this is one truth to making games. There's not one way to do things, and that's a problem. So there's a lot of different ways to do things, and to figure out which way is the right one for you right now comes a little bit with experience. This is the reason why. If you want to learn making games, then just start making games. Make small games and make them again, and make other games and copy games. And this is the best way to learn actually, because this is what gets you the experience of knowing when you want to be precise and when you want to put a lot of effort in, and when you just do it really fast. So for now, I want to do a bit fast, but not hacky. I want to show it a good way. And so I have to tell the engine somehow, please use this camera for this player. So normally and you will see this later, this is done in the player controller. So I can say player number 1 is using this player controller, and the player controller has a camera. We do it a little bit easier way because there are some comfortable, nice things, and this is called auto player activation. So if I select a camera, I have this, and then I have a drop-down menu, and I can say whose camera, whose player this camera is. This is pretty nice, and you can see here something you have to realize. Unreal Engine is made for multiplayer from start. So this is not an extra module you load. We think that multiplayer is also a bit the future, but it's also about if you want to do a good game and you want to do a multiplayer game, it has to be inside the engine really deep in all parts. And that's Unreal Engine comes from Unreal Tournament. So you have multiplayer everywhere, which makes it a little bit more complex to learn, but gives you advantage. And I don't even want to use it. So we just say player 0, which is the first one. And then, oh, we should definitely save the map breakout. So we save the map. And now I said take this camera. And if I start now, I have this camera. Nice. I can press F11 and then I get it full screen. Okay. So now I have the feeling. So I can look at it. Okay, that's nice. Oh, we missed the ball. Shit. Let's make the ball. So F11 and it goes back to this. And then we would like to add a ball, which is a sphere. And here's a sphere, so I put it there. So now it's somewhere in the air. So let's put it 0, 0, 0. Let's move it to the pedal. Let's take a look. And okay, this ball is obviously a little bit too big. But this is where prototyping gets interesting. Why not make a super big ball, or why not make a super small ball, or why not changing the ball size during the game? Then suddenly Breakout becomes a different game, you see? And now I can do it. I can prepare it to do this. This is where the cool ideas come from. What I normally do, I have literally an old notebook besides me, not digital, and when I do a prototype, I write down these ideas. I say, oh, big ball could be interesting, something like that. So because I want to go forward here, but I want also be inspired. I want to inspire myself with cool ideas by making it. So this ball is too big right now. So I can change the dimension. So if I would do this, you can see it's only changing in one dimension. So what you also can do, which is a nice tool, is you can lock the relation of the scale to each other. So I can say if I now say something like 1.2, then it's changing in all 3 dimensions, which is nice. So let's see. Well, this is maybe too small. What do you say? I would say it's too small. So let's make it a little bit bigger, like this. Let's start. Okay. So that looks okay for me right now. So that's what I said. So we have no logic inside. We have no. It's not. There's no input. We cannot do. I cannot even move around now. We have no logic at all. But we already have an idea about the dimension. You see, that's the example I made with having the camera in mind first, or at least think about this, rebuilding something, and also for learning progress. This is nice because I haven't done any complicated things so far. I have just placed some stuff. That's it. And that gets you into the engine. It gets you get a little bit used to it. So this is nice. So we have this now. So what's next? Let's think about it. What do we want to do next? First of all, I think I could now start making player input and move the pedal left and right, but this would be actually pretty boring because it cannot interact with anything. But the one thing in this game everything is interacting with is a ball. So maybe let's first think about having the ball bouncing around. Okay, so let's do some crazy physics with a ball. And before we do this, maybe we want to color it. So I want to give you a short glimpse about how making because this looks boring. And if you make a game, you should have fun, right? I mean, this is one thing I have sometimes the feeling, especially in my culture, people forget. It's about we want to create something that's fun, so we want to have fun making it. So sometimes we have to treat ourselves. So this looks boring right now. So let's make it a little bit more colorful. So to do this, we need material. So when I take a look at those cubes here, if I select one, you can see it has a material and it is just right. So, and this is, all the stuff I've put here is in the engine already. So now we want to do our own material so we can manipulate the color and other stuff. So right now we have only a content folder. So let's make a new folder, and where we can store our stuff, and let's just call it assets. So just to have it a little bit organized, even if we don't have much here, I think it's important to do this from the start to organize it a bit. In my past, I did always a big mistake when we started a project that we think about the folder structure and where goes what, and then we have spaceships. So we thought about that before making it, and then we were setting up the structure, and then we were working with it. Nowadays, what I try to do is first I do it super simple, just for the needs I have now, and when something is growing up and needs more space, then I rearrange. That's much better than to think about upfront what you will end up at the end. So I think when making a game, it's also a little bit like go with the flow, do what you currently need, and then expand. So for now, we do just an asset folder where we put our assets in. So when I make a right click here, I have different stuff I can add. So I could now drag and drop stuff in. So for example, if I have a texture, someone draw on a texture, I could just draw the texture and then it's importing. I could use this. We don't want to do this, we just want to have the color, and we can do this with everything that comes with the engine. And to do this, we need materials. So the basic bricks of a game, we have the static meshes, we have the materials. When we have logic, we will use the blueprints, and here you have a lot of other stuff like animations, artificial intelligence stuff. We have foliage like for grass, to place grass, etc. But when it comes to the absolutely basics of a game, you have a 3D object, or you have a 2D object, and you have a texture, or you have a material on it. So this is really basic. So let's make a material. Let's call this material m_base, because I told you yesterday that the whole engine is made of inheritance. So you can make one thing, and then you can make a child of it and modify stuff. So that's what we want to do. So we do one base thing, and then we do different versions of it. So the base material, if I open this up, when I double click, I see this. This is the material editor. So when we talk about these engines, it's not important if it's Unreal or another engine. They often come with a lot of different tools. And Unreal Engine is really strong in having a lot of those tools, because it comes with everything you need to make the game and to deploy it on any device you want. So this is a material editor. What I can see here is on the left side, I have a preview. By the way, what's really funny is this is a headquarter of Epic. So someone made this HDR picture to have, because it's reflective in the material, etc. So you need a nice scene to see your material stuff. So I was there first time last year, and it's really like this. So if here, and then we turned around and said, "Oh shit, this is out." I know this from the engine. So this was kind of funny. A little more trees now there, but yeah, this is a preview. Here is the graph, the shader graph. So here put stuff together. The material editor I will show in a second. Here you have the details depending what you have selected. So right now I have this. Or if I have nothing selected, it always shows the material details from this material. So for example, this is surface and it's opaque, and it would change if I would say this is translucent. Then you can see I have other input nodes. So, but for now we just do something super simple. We just want to control the color and a little bit how reflective it is, etc. So what I can do is, with a right click, I have access to all the stuff I can place here as nodes. So this is also visual scripting. It's not blueprints, but it's visual scripting. So what I can do is do a right click, and I can search for different parameters, like a vector, like a vector, or like some really nice and super short if I hold 3 on your keyboard and then make a left click, he is generating a vector. And a vector is just these 3 numbers. R is, if I made this R1, then it's red. Okay, so this is pretty easy. And so I can make this a base color. So I just draw this line out and put it in. And now it's black because I set it to black. And when I double click on this, it's opening up this color picker. And there I can change the color. So we can make it like nice green. You have to be aware that you also change here from the light. So you have to push it up if you want to have it really green, otherwise it stays like this. So now you can see it's compiling, and then I see here it is green, which is pretty nice. So what you also can do is you can hold 1 and press, then you do just a scalar parameter, so this is just one number, and I put it in, for example, for metallic. And I do another one, and I put it in for roughness. So what I can do with this now is I can say, okay, metallic, let's do this 100% metallic. So what's happening then is the engine is calculating this as a metallic object, and now I have it super reflected, like it's a greenish metallic thing. Okay, this is pretty nice. Already like a Christmas, what's no? So this is nice. And I can also manipulate how the roughness, so how rough is the surface, so the engine is calculating the general outcome. So currently this is 0. If I would make this like 0.3, then you see it is a little bit more rough, but it's still shiny. So this is really nice. I can do a lot of stuff only with this without doing super fancy stuff. You can do. I have a colleague who is crazy about this. He can. It's like a magician when he's doing stuff there. I'm sitting there like, wow. So this is where real tech artist stuff come in, where you can read the depths of the scene, and then you can cut out stuff, and then you can make outlines or whatsoever. So this is super powerful, and the material you can apply the material on certain different things. So currently we just put it on an object, but you can put it on the whole scene. Like you can make post-process material, or you can make a light function. So we can make some stuff here like flashing lights in different colors and put it on a light, and then this is emitting into the world. So you can do with it, go really, really far with this. I'm not a super expert on materials. I know the basics. I know how to do my stuff done. But when it gets to this magic kind of thing, this is really specialized, a specialized thing. But you can understand the basics. So we have this now. So let's not make it. We won't want to make a metal version right now. So let's move this back to something more meaningful. So let's say we are 0 metallic, and we are a little bit rough. So like this. And then we say, I go back to a little bit boring one because it's my base color. Later I want to change it, but for now I make it this. So what I could do now is we save this and apply. I could add this now to something on the scene. So let's take a look at our pedal, for example. So currently it has this material. So I could drop this here now. What else I can do is, while I have it selected, I can use this little arrow here, or I can make drop down, and then I have the list of stuff I have in the engine. So I select this. So this doesn't look like it has changed, right? Because it's still white. But if I would go here now and say, okay, instead of white, we do blue, and then apply. Then it takes some time, and now, okay, it's a little bit subtle, but it's because of our light. So our light is still maybe a bit too bright. So you see, the light has a lot of influence how it looks. So if I put the light really up, then it's going back to white. So this is important to understand. But I can also make it much darker blue, like this, and it's also. So it takes some time. Here we go. There it is. As said, it's still. Oh, that's another thing. So currently, the engine, and that's true for every engine again. An engine comes with some default values. So I haven't set up anything about how light reacts and all that. So it's taking the default values. And one thing I personally dislike a bit is what's called exposure. So when I go deep here, the engine tries to simulate our eye adaptation. So when I'm outside and going inside, then maybe the eyes take some time to adjust to the lights, and that's something the engine is simulating all the time. That has a lot of influence on how how is the stuff we see. So if I get closer and if I look, you see it's a little bit subtle, but I will show you what it means. So it's called exposure. And there are different ways to deal with this. So currently, exposure, the game settings are used. So here you have different perspectives we are using, and we are using lit or unlit. So this is without light calculation. So this is now, no light. Here's wireframe, and you have, I don't know how reflection are working. We don't have a reflection in yet. So ignore that. But I have different ways to do this, and there's game settings, or there's something I can override, and I can. So if I change this value, so that comes a little bit from cameras. You know, old cameras, films, they have different ISO 100, etc., etc. So it's a little bit like that. I said I'm not really an expert, but what it basically does, and what we have to understand, it helps calculating the light situation. So if I mess this up and then I do all my stuff and then my game looks maybe not like I want, it's maybe because I didn't make the basic light setup in a good way, and then I worked with the wrong light setup the whole time, and then I messed up my colors. So let's go back first and do game settings. So what this does is, if I, for example, have certain game settings, but in the editor I don't want them, I can override and say don't use in the editor the game settings. That's what it's doing. If I would start now, you see it's using the game settings from the game itself. So that's one thing. We want to use the game settings here, because this is one advantage of the editor. This viewport is what you get in the game. You know, it's not a complete different thing. So it's exactly like this. So I tend to do the setup that the editor looks exactly the same. I have only one project right now I'm working on where I work top down in the editor, but I run around in a dungeon inside. And there I need different settings, because from top down I don't see anything. So I boost this up to see something, but when the game starts it uses the game stuff. So that's the reason. So we have different ways to deal with this exposure. Each camera has a lot of options. So I can go in the camera settings, and when I look for exposure, I can find values here, but then only when this camera is used, this exposure is used. Where the same please? Ah, that's interesting. That's something I said at the beginning.
Yeah, so I think they're watching.
That's nice. From Uganda?
Yeah.
Hello, people from Uganda. Nice you are watching the stream. We can say hello. Can you turn around and say hello? Hello, Uganda? It's really nice. Kumi just showed me a comment from YouTube, and they're saying in Uganda they have the same, that they have community thing, but as game designers they feel all a little bit isolated. So it's interesting to see that the challenges are actually the same. So yeah, nice comment. Thank you. It's interesting. So we do this now here and live. I'm getting a bit more nervous. Okay. So back to this exposure thing. So as said, there is not one way, and it's always, you have to be mindful where to use this. So we want to manipulate the light settings not only for this camera. We could do this because we are only using this camera, but imagine you have different cameras. Then you don't want to do it in the camera. I want to do it for the whole world. Okay, and there is something that is also super fancy and pretty cool, and it's called post-process. So post-process volume. So if I get this in, I have this nice volume here, and this volume comes with a lot of parameters. So I can say something like how bloomy it is, but I have exposure. Let's keep for exposure for now. And as said, what the exposure is doing, is actually looking at the whole scene and saying, oh, the scene is now darker, so let's speed up the light. Okay, so this is this eye adaptation thing, and that's I can have a speed for this, so I can say it goes up faster and less. But it's a volume. That means only when the camera is inside, this is influenced. So if I go here inside, you see, then it's doing something. So I can set this to values, and if I go outside, let's do a little bit more extreme values. Oh, you see it. So what you see is now outside I have the standard default values. Inside I have other values. So take a look at the light, at the white color of the blocks. So if I go inside, whoa, it's getting darker. Okay, and you see with the speed it did. So, but this post-processing values has one thing that is really, really nice, and that's called unbound. So I can say, okay, you little guy, it's not important if I'm inside you, you please be all over the world, okay, with all the settings I put in, which is pretty nice. And the moment I do this, plop, so now I don't have to be inside of this. And this is pretty nice because the post-process volume, oh, I'm sorry, I hope I didn't destroy it. So post-processor volume, you can do a lot of fancy stuff there, a lot of artsy stuff. This is something if you are looking for nice own kind of style, then something you want to learn a little bit more about post-process. I can't do this now. This is too big. But for now, it's just interesting to see. Okay, there's a post-process. It's a volume. I can either do unbound and do it everywhere, or I can do it at a certain position. And it's a nice practice to have one for the whole scene, and then you can have within the scenery, you can have different ones. For example, an underwater effect. You would do an underwater effect with this. So you can have Gaussic and distortion. So in the moment you get inside this, it looks like underwater. But if you're outside, it's not. So there's a lot of cool use cases for this. So we set this to unbound. And now we try to find good values for this. So I think actually 1 is a good value. And here is 1. I mean, most of the stuff has tooltips. So if you hover over it, it explains itself. Some of them, if you press Control and Alt, have even extended ones. And there's actually a good documentation about the stuff on the website. So you can go to the Unreal documentation website, and then you can learn this. And for post-process, you find that's what I don't want to do. I don't want to dig into one specific thing now. But you can write down post-process Unreal Engine, and you find a lot of nice tutorials with a lot of funny things you can do. Okay, so but for now we solved our problem with being too light or too bright. So I put the volume somewhere on the side because I don't really need it now. So now we have our dark blue, which we wanted. So if I start the game now, it's maybe overall it's a little bit too, but now we can use the color. What we could do is now each time we change something here, this is the base material, okay? Each time I change something here, I have to compile it. And if you have a big complex material here, it takes some time. And there's a nice thing you can do. We can make a child of this material. It's called material instance. And this one I call mi for material instance underscore. And then let's call it pedal, because we do this now specifically for the pedal. So if I click on the pedal again, instead of using mbase here, I use now mpedal, which doesn't change it because it's actually the same. So if I open up this instance, it looks like this. So I have just a preview, and I have some parameters exposed. And I didn't expose to change. I cannot change the color from here right now because I haven't told the base material to change it. So I can let's go back to the base material here, and instead of just setting it fixed here, I can make a right click, and then it called convert to parameter. So I can make this a parameter, and then he's asking me to enter a name for this color parameter. I say this is color. So so I have color here, and then I apply, and when I now go back, you see I have color here. This is pretty cool because what I can do now is, this doesn't have to be compiled each time I change something, because I can influence it from outside, and I have it applied to this pedal. I can go here now, say, okay, I want to override the color. I click here, and now I can say, okay, the color green is maybe better, and maybe we want to have it a little bit brighter. So you see, I can directly change it here, which is pretty nice, because it's directly, I can see what I get. Okay, let's keep it like this for now. So now I have color. So the play field really looks super boring with this gray. So we want actually to have also material there. So again, we don't want to use this directly. We want to use this directly. We make another one. So we could either copy this one, or we make another child from here. This is the same, and we could say mi, and then we call it border. Okay, and the border, we make something that doesn't pay too much attention for the player yet. We just make this really boringly gray, white. Okay, and now I have to apply this. And this is a bit tricky because this here is static meshes, and they have normally UVs and all that, and I can put the material in here. On these brushes I used, I have different surfaces, so I have to put it here first, and then I see it from above. But if I go inside, I don't see much. Let's see that we maybe get the direction light from another direction. There you go. So you see there's still gray. This is a little bit special with those. So I have to click all the different surfaces of that. Let's see. Oops. So I have to select this, and then you have to be careful if you do it on your side that you really have select the right surface, and then there's element, and then you can drop it in. So let's do this to all sides. I don't need always to have the camera there, but okay. And then I can click around here, and then I see if it's applied or not. It looks good. So and now the thing is, with this border again, if I don't like the color, I can just go to my scene now and say, okay, now I want a really red color. So active thing, I tend to make the stuff that's not in players' attention, I try to tone it down, because our eyes are easily attracted to those things that stand out. Okay, so I made this. So nice. Oh, we have this, and now we should also color those. Or let's do, no, we don't do this later. We just put one color in, and then we see later. This is the last thing we do, and then we make a short break and we see how you're doing. So again, I can use this base material. Say make an instance, call it mi for material instance underscore, and then let's call it brick. So I have this brick color, and just so it's different, I make it kind of green. I personally like green. And what I then can do, I can select all of them here, but then be careful you don't select this one. And the selection works really a little bit like Windows, so I can use Shift, click, and Control to click several times. I could also hover over it like this, and then hold Control and Alt, and then I have this kind of bounding boxy thing, but you have to be careful that you select only the cubes. And then I can just add this, and then they are green. So if I take a look there, that's what we have now. Don't be bothered by the little ball, black thingy above the pedal. We will fix this later. So, what do you think? It's okay? So who has issues to follow right now? Who needs some help? Okay, everybody? I hope not. So, where are you? Other subtract thing. Okay, you need two different brushes. Do you have two different brushes? And there you say subtract, and then you put it. Yeah, and then you put it on 0, 0, or wherever you have this. And then you say, instead of additive, you say subtract, and then you find the. It's not doing it. I think it's maybe not. May I see? For that reason, by the way, I have the word outline on the other side, because this. So you have this on this location. What you can do is you can make a right click here, the whole look, and then you can go to your section and the details, and then you can make it paste, and now it's on the same location and it doesn't subtract. Now let's see, what do you do with the other one? Oh, clicked hollow. Complete. put this on moving, then you get rid of the sliding thing. And now press play. Ah, okay. You see? Okay, cool. Then stop again. And now materials. So you have you done any materials? Ah, okay. You manipulated that one. Ah, okay. You shouldn't do this, but it's okay. Just close this, and then make a right click here somewhere, and then you add material. It's a green one. And then call it m_base. Okay. You can already apply it, but it will get black in that moment, and then you work on that one. So you open this, and then you add color and stuff there, you know. And from that you make the copy, the instance. So, you hold 3 here, and then press it, make a left click, and then you can make a right click on that, and then that's the one you put in base color. And then when you make a right click on this, you can call it cut, and then you can make a base color here, whatever you want. And you have to be careful that you also put this up, because this is how dark the green should be. And then okay. And now go back into your other editor, so you can close this. Yes, you apply the changes you make. And then when you make a right click on the M-base, you can make the instance, the child of it, create material instance. And that one you can call mi_pedal. And that one you can apply now to your pedal, or to your ball, or whatever. To your pedal. I mean, it's better to have it. You call it pedal, so it's good to select the pedal first. So you did. Oh, wait a second. Something. Maya? I just want to check something. Oh, you made brushes. Okay, okay. This is the difference. So you made all of those are brushes, which is okay for now. But what you should have done is here under the basics there is a cube. So this is the one I used, and for this one, oops. For this one, we want to use, and the advantage is this one you have to play. You have to select every face of it and put color. For this one, it's automatically doing it. So you can do this now, and scale it, and then I use this also for that one. Yeah, but that's basically it. Or you can make now when you double click this, you have this color now, and then for the border, and then you apply it to the border. Got it? Okay, cool. Who else? You okay?
I'm fine, I'm alright.
I see what you're doing. Anybody else want some help? No? Fine? Fine? Okay. Cool. Kunmi, when do we do a break? 26? Okay. Okay, you are all okay? Yeah? Having fun? It's nice? Yesterday someone told me Nigerians tend to, if they don't like something, they don't have time, they just went out. So everything is fine. That's I really like this attitude. I prefer this instead of having people. There are some countries where it's really hard to deal with because they are super nice, but they are super nice all the time, and you do not know what they really think. I'm German. I'm also really straight, so I like this attitude of being just like. So feel free. I don't feel offended. So I mean, I know everybody has a lot of important things to do. So thanks for staying so far. I'm having fun, so I begin to really enjoy this. What about you? So good? It's okay? We continue? So I mean, now we made the play field. Now we made some colors. The next step would be the real fun part. We should try to make the ball bounce around, okay? Because I would prefer to do that first, because then we have something we can interact with, and then we do the pedal, that we can move the pedal, and then we make that the blocks go away when the ball hits it, and then we count points, and then we display the points on screen, and then we have nearly a game. Okay, cool? I think we're good in time, it goes very well. Nice. Cool, okay. Next step. So, next what we want to do, I know it's a lot. I mean, I saw this so easy for me to do this, and it's highly appreciate for the people who try to follow. But really feel free to tell me, also in the break, you can ask me something and I try to fix it so you can, I mean, you don't have to do it perfectly right now. If you follow it a bit, then it gives you really a good status for doing it maybe again for yourself in your own pace. It's so hard to keep up with the pace of someone else. And it's hard for me to do it slow enough and explain everything so you can follow. So, okay, let's talk about the ball. So now comes some blueprints. So now comes some game logic. So right now, if you can see here, we have only static meshes and brushes and post-process and direct light, and we only manipulated the stuff that's there. Now the ball, we want to do much around. So he needs speed. He needs the speed, and he needs collision. And in the old days, when they made those games, there were no physics engine. They had to write that. So you had to write the velocity. You have to update each single step, and if it hits something, then you have to calculate how it's reflected, etc. So you have to do it by hand. I will do something now that's a little bit easier. I use the physics engine that's inside. So I make it real physics. That's a little bit overpowered, and it can get out of hand really easily, and you can have crazy things. And even to you will see now that can even happen to us. But I will try it anyhow because it's the fastest way to do it. So what we want to do is with this ball, we want to have it bouncing around. So what I could do is it has, and that's what I meant. There's a lot of stuff built into the engine from the start. I could go to the sphere and already say, please simulate physics, and I can. Let's just say this, and then I press play, and what's happening is, woo, goodbye ball. So it's falling down the earth. So because the world has gravity. So I want to have a little bit more control of this little ball than I have with this. So I don't do this. What I do is let's make it a real actor. So something we can. Yesterday I told you about the blueprints and how blueprint is an actor and what you can do with a blueprint. We do exactly that now. So first of all, I will make a new folder. I call it core. Oh, I will not make it within the asset folder. I will make it here. So here's my asset stuff, and here's my core stuff. All the game logic will go in here. So it's just a folder. And then I make a right click here, and then I say, okay, let's make a blueprint class. So when I open up this window, he's asking me what kind of blueprint I want to do. Do I want to do an actor, a pawn, a character, a player controller, whatsoever? And I just rephrase what I said yesterday. The engine is really built on this idea of inheritance. So an actor is an object, and then I have different actors. And now it's a little bit more, it's a little bit shorter list, because yesterday I've shown it in this huge project where there's a lot in already. We have only the engine stuff in, and our little things we did here. So here is ambient sounds, here is cables, here's so much stuff. We all don't need that. The only thing what we want to do is we want to do a really simple actor. So I can, this tooltip is nice. So I just do an actor. So he's generating for me this asset, and I call it BP for blueprint underscore ball. So this will become my ball. So right now, if I would place it here, it's nothing. Okay, there's nothing in. I have specified nothing. So let's delete it for now. And then when I double click it, it opens up the blueprint editor. So right now you can see here is nothing. So I have nothing specified, no component. So first of all, let's make it a real ball. So I can add a basic sphere here. What I can also do, a basic sphere is actually a static mesh. So, and I I show the harder way to do it. So you do a static mesh, and then I can name it. I just keep static mesh for now. So it's a ball, the static mesh of the ball. And then, as in the editor before, I have the details here. So when I select the static mesh, here none is set. So that's the reason why I don't see anything. There is an object that's called static mesh, but there's nothing, it's not defined what it is. So I can open this drop-down menu and then, oh, I have nothing in. That would be the moment where an artist makes a really beautiful ball in Max, in Blender, in Maya, in whatever kind of 3D tool. But there's something I want to show you, and this is here, it's called view options. So right now, the content, I can say what I want to see in this list to keep an overview of my stuff. So currently I disabled everything. So right now I don't see anything, but if I say show engine content, then he gives me, then he gives me, okay, what did I add now? Oh, nice. So I accidentally added the gizmo we are using for moving stuff around. So again, drop-down menus, this is all the assets the engine is using. As you can see, you could manipulate those. And one of the guys just accidentally did change the material of the editor. That's you can do this, but that means every time you use this editor mesh stuff now, stuff gets green. So everything on your side is now green, which is nice. You can mess around with this. So we have people running around in the office and sometimes mess with other people's stuff just for fun. It's not nice, yeah, but you can do this. So that again is showing a little bit the openness of the engine. So the engine is pretty, you can change everything you want. There's nothing closed and locked down. But we don't want to change anything, but we want to use this cube. Oh no, not this cube, you want to use a sphere. So let's look for the sphere, and there are different ones, and there is one that's where you see at path, it's engine/basic meshes. So I want to use this. So now I have my sphere. And for default material, so first of all, I switch off engine content again because I want to have a clean project, easy to navigate. So I only picked so I can find it. And now let's see, I made already, oh, we didn't make a ball material. We didn't make a ball material. So let's first go back here, go in our asset folder, use this base again, make material instance, say mi ball. So the ball needs the color. Let's keep it blue for now. We can change it later. And now let's select mi ball. So I can, oops, here we are. So I can either use this error if I have it selected, or I can use the drop down, and then I have my blue ball. So now I have a blue ball. If I save and compile, and now I go to the core and I take my blueprint and put it here, you can see there it is. It is blue and a little bit too dark. So let's go to the ball and make it a really light blue, so it stands out a bit more, even more. So here we go, we have our ball. Let's put the ball to 0, 0, 0. And then move it down. And here you can see we changed the scale of this ball. We made it really, really tiny. And this one is still big. So what you can do is, which is pretty nice, I could now type in the numbers into my new ball, or I can go here and say copy. So I can copy all of those. And let's go to our ball in the blueprint here in the static mesh. I can make a right click and say paste. And bam, then I can transfer this. This is a nice little feature. Some people oversee that. It's just for convenience. So now I have my ball here. If I go back here, and now you can see as I have placed this ball here, it's changing when I change the ball. So let's get rid of our imposter here, our not ball. Okay, so here we have our ball now. And again, if I go, I have all the stuff I had there before. So I can say again, like simulate physics. And then when I press play, again, you can see it falling down. So because the world has gravity. So I don't physics, but we don't want to have him falling down. And the cool thing is there's constraints. We can say, don't do certain things. We don't want you to move in z-axis. So we put everything on 0, 0, 0, and z is up. So we say, okay, you are simulated by physics, but please, we lock you down on z. Z is not an option for you. You can only move in x and y. And if I do this, what's happening is the ball is not falling anymore, but he's also not doing anything right now. Okay, because he has no force. So this is real life physics. If I put something there and unfortunately I cannot allow it to fall down, that would be really cool. But I put it there, and then if no force is applied, he's not doing anything. So let's think about how to apply a force. So to apply a force to something, we have to give it an impulse, so we have to kick it. That's what we want to do. And to kick it for an object, it is important to know the mass. So how big is it? So if I kick an elephant, it's a difference to kicking a small ball. And so the mass is calculated right now. So this one is 13 kilogram. I can override this and let's have a little bit more control. Let's say this ball is just 1 kilogram. The thing is, I'm doing this is I want to have control over the situation. And this mass is calculated by the size and the material I'm using. I could say this material has a certain density, so the engine is really taking the material, taking a look how big I have scaled it, and then it's suddenly 100 kilogram. So it is trying to do it really accurate, and I want to override it and have a little bit more control over this. So I give it a mass of 1. So that still doesn't change anything. So if I start the game, he's still not moving. But what I can do now is, now we come to the blueprint stuff. So in construction script, as said, I can do stuff like manipulating the color of the ball in the editor or whatsoever. We will use this later for the bricks. But for now, we can go to this event graph, and there are there's one node that's interesting for us, and that's called begin play. So in the moment the game begins, we want to kick it. So let's kick a ball. So what I can do is everything that I have built up here in this viewport, I can grab and move here. And if I do so, I have a reference for it. So now I can do stuff on this. So I could also open here and then look for it. But the easiest way is just to drag and drop it in. So I have this ball here now, the static mesh of the ball, and I could set something like, I think I can even set mass. So the thing I just did in the detail panel, nearly all of that I can also do dynamically in real time. So I could set here, set mass scale, set override in kilogram. So now I could say the 1 kilogram thing I just put in there, I could also do here. So that's what I meant, there are different ways to do things. But let's keep it clean. I mean, this is the initial setup. This is nice to read. This is not hidden somewhere. So we keep this here. But what we want to do is, we want to add an impulse. And when I just drag this out here, and that's something why I personally really like blueprints, because even the game systems, or the systems that are in the engine, I don't know. I can just drag it in, drag out, and then it's context sensitive, giving me all I can do with this. So I could open this up and now browse through and say, okay, what can I do? Collision. Oh, I can assign. I can character step on this. Get collision. I get a lot of. This is not. So this is context sensitive. This is all I can do with this little object. But what we want to do is we want to give an impulse. So let's search for impulse. So and there are different ones. Add impulse. So I can add an impulse. That's okay. So this white line. So that's okay. That's something I have to explain. So this is an event that got fired, and then you have these white lines. That is called the execution flow. So it is going through these white lines and execute in that order. So if I connect this with this, what's happening is when the game starts, this gets called. Okay. And then I can go further. So the order of these things is important. Okay, this is a really difference. If I it's a real difference if I have several things and I do it in the other order. Okay, so but what I want to do is I want just to add this impulse, and here are values. So this is a vector. You know what a vector is? So basically, it is giving me a position or a strength, or it's just a definition from 0 to this position. So if I would give an impulse, I could do something like, let's try to make this ball going diagonal in one direction. So let's give it an impulse like, I don't know, and that's something you have to figure out sometimes, especially with physics. Let's do 500 on epsilon and 500 on that. And that might be different for you. I saw some of you have a rotated field, so you rotated your field. Then you have to think about, okay, what is x? Then we comes to this left-handed thingy a little bit. So where is x? Where is epsilon? So when I go back here and take a look, and you see this, y is this, and x is this, and x should be positive in this. X positive should be in this direction, and epsilon positive should be in this direction. So if I want to shoot the ball like 45 degrees in this direction, I should use x and y the same amount. So I do 500, 500. Okay, let's save. And now, drum roll. I hope it works. We press, and then bam. Okay, woo! And our ball is moving. This is cool. This is one of the best moments when making games, when you have the first interactive thing. It's so inspiring. So now it stops moving. So why? Any idea why this? I mean, the ball behaves obviously not like breakout. It's not bouncing, exactly. So what this ball does is when I start, it is colliding with something, and then there is the velocity is okay. The problem is the surfaces. So if I have a surface, it is different friction. So there's friction. I mean, it can be really slidey, or it can be really stoppy, or it's there's really, that's one thing. And how good can it bounce? Like I mean, this one doesn't bounce at all. But if I have a bouncing ball, then that's the name of the ball, right? So then it's really bouncy. Wow. And we have to tell that the materials. So, and now comes the nice thing. As you might remember, we put all materials we have in the game are based on one material. Okay, so we made one base material, and then we made a lot of childs of it. And as I inherit all functionality of this base material, let's go to the base material and tell this material, because it's a material we are using everywhere, please be super bouncy and please don't have any friction. Okay, so that's what we want to do now. So we go to the material, the m_base material. And if you take a look there, when you click this big node or click somewhere else, then you have something on the upper corner here. It's called physics material. So I can make a material now, and the material contains all the information about friction and bounciness. And again, there are different ways to do it. So first of all, I can make this drop-down menu, and then you can see, oh, I don't have any physics material yet. So let's make one. So we can create a new one here. You could also go here in the asset folder, make a right-click, and then go to, I think it's under materials and textures. No, it's not. Then it's under physics. You have physics material. Okay. So we can make a physics material, and then it's popping up and saying, okay, you want a new material. Where does it inherit from? So again, it comes back all the time, this iteration thing. So there is one base material, this physics material already in the engine. So I make a child of that, and I just call this for now. I will only have one in the whole game, I know. Okay, that was me being stupid. I just deleted it. So I do it again. And I just call it physics material. So if I would have different ones, if I would have like, okay, we have glass and this is really slidey, we don't have this here, I would do different ones, okay? But I only do one. And so let's open this up. If I open this up, I have the list of things. And here you find friction. So the friction is actually pretty high. So let's say no friction. This game has no friction. It just bounces. And there you have restitution. That's the bounciness. So it's a low value. Say, let's make it 1. So let's be super bouncy and have no friction at all. Okay, so we made this material now. I can close this. Oh, my game's still running. And now I go to the base. And now I find my material. And I just add that. And when I apply, it takes some time to compile. Then all these materials, wait a second. So all this material should have the material. So wait a second, I have to, let's save all. That's, by the way, always a good idea to save in between. I mean, that's always the same. Those engines, all of the engines are pretty complex, and there can be situations where it crashes. And I had a presentation once for 120 people, and it crashed, and we did a lot, and I didn't save, and I was like, oh fuck. But the cool thing is, out of the box, Unreal Engine has an autosave, so it's regularly autosaving, and I didn't lose anything. I talk so much. It was autosaving in between, so I didn't lose anything. This is really cool. That's something I really like. Let's see. So base material, we have this, we have this, we have applied this. So let's start the game and see what our ball is doing. You see? So, and here you see one of the problems of making games. So this ball will never stop now to going up and down right now. Okay, I have a pedal. Oh, wow. Bye ball. Yeah, that's the problem with physics. Sometimes stuff goes wrong. I have no idea what happened here, but I think it stopped. Wait a second. I have a suspicion. No, it is there. There's the border. That's interesting. So let's give him a little bit more bounce. Let's go crazy. So we double this. Oh, that's another good trick. If you balance stuff, if you try to change numbers in your game, if you want to figure out anything, always double or half. Don't do something like and then you don't feel it. I mean, always double or half and then you get closer to it. It's not my rule. It's copied from best designers I know. It's Sid Meier. He did Civilization, for example. Really great strategy game. On that, always double. Brilliant advice. Because if you begin like, oh, let's make it a little bit smaller and then see, you don't feel it. You don't see the difference. So half and then half again and then half again and then you're getting closer to what you want. So we doubled now the ball, so let's see what he's doing. Ah, I see what's happening there. So, do you see he's bouncing to this nearly invisible object in the middle? Yeah. Okay, so I can show you something. So let's start again. That's something I missed to explain. So you see here on the left side on the outline, that's the stuff we put in. So we have our ball now. We have this cube is our pedal, and all these cubes are our bricks. We have the light and we have the post-process. But when I start the game, you can see this yellow stuff here. That is spawned by the engine. So the engine is it's completely made for games, and it's coming from making games and is used for making games. So if you don't define stuff, it falls back on his default behavior. And the default behavior is, okay, I need a camera. Spawning a new one. I have this defined one because I override use this, but I haven't really told the right object in the game. So the player controller is in charge of the camera. So I haven't told the player controller, please use this camera. I just override it. What it means is there's a player controller spawned. You will see here there is a player controller. Controller spawns the camera manager. The camera manager doesn't know about this camera, so it spawns its own. Was actually one of those. So there's, for example, it might be that it was the default player pawn. It was the camera we were before, which we were flying around in the world before we set up this camera. You know? So it's still spawned. up properly. That's something we will do in the moment we do the pedals. Okay, that's the reason why you see some crazy stuff being spawned somewhere you don't want. Okay, but that's fine for now. We ignore that. I will do this in a minute. So and it's get randomly spawned somewhere. It's very often spawned where I was in the editor the last time. So this is actually the camera. So don't get confused by it. But this looks already pretty nice. So now it would be time to being able to move the pedal. That would be nice, because clearly I can't do anything. I can watch this. This is fun. I can turn around I can change the values. But there's no interaction. So now let's come to the interaction, and then we also get, in the same moment, we get rid of all the crazy stuff that's spawned there. Okay, so when I go to the world settings, there's one thing that's important, and that's game mode. So what I told yesterday when we talked about this framework that Unreal comes with, it has always a game mode, and a game mode has always a default pawn class, and it has a player controller and other stuff we don't care about right now. So there's a lot of stuff the game mode comes with, and I haven't specified any game mode. So he is just using the standard one, and the standard one is doing all this, all the stuff what we have seen. So what we want to have is we want to have more control about that. We want to have a game mode also that we can count the points. So we would count the points in the game mode, not in the pedal or something like that, because the pedal is just my character moving around, and maybe I have later the crazy idea to do different shaped panels or whatsoever. So I want maybe to be able to exchange that. So first thing we should do is we should make our own game mode, and then tell that game mode this is your character you're using. Okay? So problem is we don't have a character yet. So the question is where to start. Do we do first the character? Then we first do, let's first do it top down. So first we do a new game mode. So I do a right click here. A game mode is also a blueprint. Okay? But this time it's not an actor. This time it is a game mode. And if I open actor again, just to show you, and if I go down here, I have the default game mode somewhere. So there you see, there I have the game mode. Okay, I could I could select that, but for now I just do blueprint, and then I do game mode base. So let's call this GM for game mode _ breakout. And for the game mode, the game mode comes with a level. So each level has a game mode, but I can have 10 levels and all have the same game mode. But I can also have 10 levels with 10 different game modes. So for example, my space game, Long Journey Home, where we had actually 4 or 5 game modes. We had one for Galaxy, for the Galaxy, and we had one for when you land on a planet for the surface. Then we had one for the star system, because this all behaved different. So we had different game modes, and and we had a level for each of these. So we had a level for the Galaxy, we had a level for the surface. Even if it was the surface was generated, it was still one level that got loaded. Then cool stuff was made, so it looks like a nice surface. And then we have to. The donuts are waiting, right? But it's actually a good. It's a good way to make a break now and begin with this interaction part after that. So just to finish this, so you can have different. That's really depending on your game. If you do a fighting game, for example, you do maybe one game mode, and then you do a lot of different levels, but it's always the same game mode, because that counts how many points each player has, how many lives he has left, etc., etc. Okay, so. I think then it's a good time for a break.
So our donuts are ready, but our coffee not ready. So we are thinking that tomorrow, for our next 5 days, we're thinking before we go out there, we can just keep relaxing, right? Just pull up a little next 2-3 minutes, and then we'll have our donuts, right? So Andrea, also relax.
I try.
much. much.
from experience, right? Not personal. Somebody else's experience, right? So you see that the bad boy after work. You know that most of the time, I want to believe that having a girlfriend means that costs a lot, right? Well, now, what is the life of a new life boy? So maybe we are the life of a university boy. We have mentioned covenant. So I guess that's alright, thank you. Any other questions? So sorry. Okay, please tell us your name and your question.
My name is
Dimeji, right?
Yeah, the question is, what's the end goal of the game? For those who decide to not go to classes and engage in, like, if they don't graduate, does that mean they don't pay out the game? Game over. So,
Please just listen to him, right?
Like you say yes, you want to. Everything you have to do like this person. Look at this next thing. Like you know the assignment. Get you out, do it mark. You have to find out.
So anyway, you still have to go at the end of the day. But if you fail to do what is required at that moment, then just take a longer period. So anyway, it could mean that, if I'm thinking at it from a strategic point of view, it could mean that it serves as a means to encourage people to stay at the end of the day, go to school and finish school. If you have to spend 20 years at home, still finish school. It makes a lot of sense, right? Last question. What's the platform? What's the platform for the game? I think mobile will make sense because the school team, everybody likes to play it. Any other question? Alright, let's start I don't know what that But because you said the Nigerian game, so it means that to me, you should only be played by Nigeria, right? No. Okay, so, and know that there are a lot of people that are fakers. Yes. And there's just spirituality in the piece now, right? Yeah. So it means that they can't pass that stage? No, not exactly. Not exactly. The point is generally around the world, we believe that Nigeria is spiritual. So I'm saying that because people around the world are actually playing, and they are not spiritual people. They will pass that stage. No, it's about earning. The thing is about it's a theme. It's a theme. It's just a theme. Some games you come and say the grace, and you have different warriors, enemies, and there's a way you kill them. And you come again, the game is blue, and you have different enemies. So it's just a theme. It's a theme. It's a theme that's very more
something similar to what that guy is. Actually, I was thinking more of getting to setting of an like I was thinking, okay, and I see some people who are super passionate about it. So I don't know, I was thinking, okay, maybe you can sneak in or you can choose a class of either in Nigerian school or in Nigerian France school. Then
I'm young. I'm not married though. I just think that it's a good idea, but I believe that it's also very sensitive and it could influence another Biafra. And because we love you, you also as young as I am. Anyway, the idea of this session, one house. So it's part of the anyway, the purpose of this is that it's for us to know that game development is about everybody said this makes a lot of sense. In 5 decades, we'll come up with a prayer. It's just about everybody that is. Also, so gaming just like every other thing. There are different components to it. There's the business aspect of it. There's also the legal aspect of it. So in 5 minutes, I'm going to our friend who just comes in as a lawyer and understands the legal part of game development and all of that. So just going to come to tell us a few things that we as prospective game developers should have in mind. So let's invite our friend again. Arising from my
So before I begin, I would just like to ask one question. So how would you feel if somebody created a game that looks just like a game? Exactly. It's just one or two. How would you feel? What would you feel at that? Just move on. So what would you do? So, the 5 minutes is something about copyright protection between the game developer and copyright protection between the game developers and gamers, producers. So, first of all, you need to know that when you are developing game, there's what we call rules of game and the expression of the rules of the game. So, the rules of game are basically the things that are generally available to somebody in your position when he's creating that game. So, I give this example. So, if you want to create a game around football, you definitely need two goalposts, you need a ball, you need a referee. Now, that's the rule of the game. You cannot say that. Copyright for that's protection over the expression of the idea. So where copyright comes in is when you express this rule of the game. So I asked the question, if somebody copies your game, yes, somebody can do that. But the distinction is nobody can copy the expression of the idea. Now I like to give this example. I don't know, has anybody played Tetris? Tetris is a great game. So apparently there's a case between Tetris and Zyro interactive games. Now, Tetris is a great game. Zyro created the exact same game like Tetris, the exact thing, everything is the same. But you know how are playing Tetris, for when brick is falling, you can rotate bricks left, right. So they said that's copyright. So that wrong for middle to copy the shifting of the game left and right. When you're also playing Tetris, at the top right hand part, you see the next brick falling. So they said that that's copyright, because you cannot copy that. That is an expression of the idea. But every other thing, so with the way the game is, it was in fact they said the judge held that in that particular case, Tetris cannot lay claim to that. So basically, the lesson behind that is you need to focus more on the creative side of the game, not necessarily because you want to create a game. Because if you create a game today and it's just based on the rules of the game, I can see that game be in a better position to create something, and I'll publish it, the same thing, and there's really nothing you can do. So that's why when you are creating games, you need to focus more on the copyright aspect of the game. That is the expression, the element that the game copyrighting. So I used to give this example. If you copy FIFA today, if you create a game like FIFA, you cannot create. So I don't know if FIFA. So you see the Volta playing ground. You cannot create a Volta playing ground. Create an Alex Hunter's game-like story. You know Alex Hunter's storyline. So you cannot create a storyline around Alex Hunter. So that's one of the key things as game developers you need to focus on. Then on the other aspect, which has to do with copyright as relates to users and general gamers. I mean, we are so more, just give us like a brief, how it works. So you create a game, you need a beta version of it. Yes, right? So when you create the game finally, do you focus more on what your end user term agreement says? Do you know what that is?
Not exactly. So most time beta testing could be used to help you know what's done. So based on beta testing.
So have you pushed your game out finally?
On beta testing.
Okay. So one of the things you need to focus on when you are about to publish your game is the end user term agreement. So that's that thing when you download the game, to show you like a bunch of documents.
I've never read
I said, nobody reads it, but I think you should start reading it because that really outlines the relationship between the game developer and the users in general. So for indie developers and for really low-scale game developers, you want to focus on the way in which the general public exploit your game. In terms of, okay, let me give you a practical example. So, you want to publish that game eventually. How long will it take you to create that an update? You know, you're not every day or fortnight that can release an update. So, how long do you think it will take you to release an update? Update like in terms of creating more scenes, creating more around the game. So one of the things we want to focus on is limiting the way in which users and humans in general express your game. So there's this thing called walkthrough. I know most of us will use walkthrough. So how will you feel if you create a game to the purpose that you create and you create a walkthrough that basically tells everybody how to use the game, like the game, and you are and in a day everybody has played your game and what's the next thing?
We made that like they're waiting in place to account. Because of our Apple Store is 30K per year. So the 30K per year for Apple because of the security. States that they are not maybe no comments. I went after the on Android. And I'm only to about
creating a manuscript book or creating a video stating this is how to pass, this is how to do so from the level 1 to 10. And because you are like developer and you just see somebody say that 1 to 10 and in 2 days everybody says what is your game is no longer relevant and all that. So that's why you need to focus on your game without any agreement. That when you can limit the use of humans and users generally.
Thank you so much, guys.
Okay, so let's continue. I think we're good at time, so it's fine. So what we have done so far is we did this frame, we did the bricks, which are not really functional yet, we did all of the structure that's bouncing around, and we are now about to make the cool interactive part with player input and moving the pedal left and right. Okay? And I have shown something on the break, and I hope I didn't mess up a project now from PC. So let's see if this runs. Okay. It looks good. So as said, what we want to do now, I guess, some fundamentals. Okay, by the way, there's a neat trick if you move, you hold the right mouse button and round. And this is WASD. When you use your mouse wheel, you can speed up how fast you move. So for example, if I move it down the mouse wheel, then I'm really slow. So especially when I want to move somewhere fast, so the mouse wheel is defining how fast you can move. So this is really nice. So you have to hold right mouse button, and then when you move around while doing that, you can use the mouse wheel to adjust the speed. So for example, when I'm really close and I have the speed, I cannot really focus on something, so I can just use the mouse wheel, make it slower, and I can move smoothly. It's really nice feature. So let's go out. So okay, so here's our play field. We have our ball. Our ball is bouncing around. We added material to everything. The material has physics properties now. We did physics property with no friction and a lot of bounciness. So we have this cool play field. And now we could also begin to make different games out of this. I could begin to make a second pedal, and then I have 2 players. I can do a lot with this already. So what they were talking about creativity, I think. And when I hear you pitching your game or what you want to do, you have to distinguish between a vision or an experience and then how you express it. So this was my example from yesterday when I was when I got lost in the souks in Marrakesh. I had this strange feeling of, and I have this feeling here as well. Actually, someone of my community wrote me yesterday. We saw the YouTube video and said, "Oh, I saw you telling a story." So when it comes to a second game, because your last trip obviously inflicted this long journey home, so and now you are here, and it doesn't feel like lost. And do we get long journey home too now? And it's a bit like this, you know. I have this experience here, and I have to compute it, and then you make a game out of it, but you don't maybe know what the player is doing. You don't need to maybe first. Some ideas you need to have time, but it's a strong thing when it comes from the heart. It comes from inside. You know, when you was like that, I didn't have any idea what game they were doing. I just had an idea about the feeling. Everyone others to experience about this. Oh, I feel lost, but at the same time it's exciting. And then we were not even putting it in space from the start. It was like, okay, we have this feeling. So where can you get this feeling? I can't get this feeling of completely getting lost nowadays. because I have a phone, I have Google Maps, it is, you know, I can read a lot, I can get all the information. So even coming here and not knowing what I'm expecting, I read about your history, I look at pictures, I look at videos of people who are here, so I get a little bit of a feeling. It didn't satisfy, it's not the same as really being there. But nowadays it's hard to get this feeling of being completely lost and not knowing and trying to get home. So we decided we can either go in the past with the game, we can do something in the past with no phones, with no things, or we can go where nobody was before, so space. That's the reason why we choose space. So it was not like, oh cool, let's do a space game. It was really like, okay, we have the stomach feeling of a cool experience, how can we express it? And then we didn't even have the gameplay yet. So what I was doing as a next step, which I can encourage you to do, there's so many cool stuff out there. I researched. I looked a lot about games that gave this feeling to me, and then while looking for a game that's maybe similar, also to know a little bit what is a space, is there a target audience, do people like this kind of games, is there a big good example I want to avoid because of copyright, for example. Maybe I want to avoid to be too close to this game, so I research and try to get an idea about what kind of games are there. But also what kind of movies are there, what kind of music is there that expressing this. So this is the beauty of this. This is a mixture of technology and art. And for the art side, I can try to inspire myself with all different kinds of media, not just games. Because if we only look at games, then we only copy games. And then it's like, you know, it's like keeping it always in this. But the biggest inspiration comes from outside, from other things. So what I did then is I was researching a lot, and then I found a game which were again pretty old. I'm obviously bound a little bit to old games. 25-year-old game called Star Control 2, which is a game where you have a spaceship and you are the last spaceship of Earth, and you try to help Earth because you got back to Earth and it got enslaved by an alien race. And you're the only spaceship and you're flying around and try to make friends. It's not about shooting everybody. It's trying to get other races helping you to get Earth back. And it has a lot of humor and it's really funny and it's ugly like hell. It's super old, but it gave me a good kind of basis for. There were some gameplay I liked, like you land on planets, you gather resources, you meet aliens, you had some dialogue system. So I had a lot of the speeds I liked. So we didn't just copy it. But we were always looking at it and like, okay, why did they do this? Why did they do this? Do we want to do it differently? At the end, we made a completely different game. But this was a process. So when you pitch your games, when you think about your games, don't get disencouraged. Maybe your idea at the beginning is just a vision. Maybe it's just a feeling, and it has to grow, and it needs time. Sometimes it needs time. Sometimes I have 2 or 3 ideas I'm pregnant with since years. And they don't come out, you know. It's just an idea, but it does. I don't find. Maybe in 2 years, in 5 years, something pops up. So, be open-eyed and look left and right. What inspires you? Okay, sorry, that was my motivation speech. Now I think it's important. I think it's really important. It makes all the difference for me. This one game made really a difference for me because before that, I was more systemic. I was really German. I was like, okay, we make a game, mechanics, blah 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 blah. So we execute the game, bam, it's done. So yeah, it's the German way of doing things. But going with the flow, it's an art form. So going with the flow and letting yourself into it and trusting yourself with your stomach feeling, that's maybe you are stronger in than we are. I had to learn that. So this was but to myself, I would say. So and yeah. Okay, let's. But you need this. What we are talking about here now, you need this to express these ideas and visions. So you need this and there's some stuff that's boring and that's not fun, but you have to do it if you want to make games. Okay, so but this is not boring. I think what we want to continue now with is let's move this pedal left and right. So right now, this is not really something. As said, we need a kind of blueprint. We need a pawn in that way that we can move back and forth. And then we have to tell the game that he should use this pawn. And to do this, again, every level has a game mode. So we already made our own game mode here, this one, and it has no, it has no real information right now. It has just the same stuff it had when we didn't have an own one. So we had to override this. So currently we have this, and I added it already to this level. But if I press play, as you have seen before, it doesn't change anything right now. When you take a look on the let's do this. When you take a look here, it's still spawning this camera. It is still having a default pawn. So this is the one that's actually currently controlled by the game. And we don't give any control, so I cannot do anything with it. And it's invisible somewhere. So we want to change this. And to change this, we want to have our own pawn we can manipulate. So what we do now is, I made a right click here, I add a new blueprint, and this time I want to do a pawn. And the pawn is just already coming with some functionality, like it can be possessed by a controller. Okay, that's maybe something. You see here player controller, and you see pawn, and you see character. So what is all that? That is kind of confusing. And yes, it is at the beginning. So the player controller, you have to think about player controller is like the brain. Okay, a brain, and a brain you can actually, maybe this is not the best comparison, you can put the brain in different parts. So I have different bodies, and I have a brain, and I can actually exchange the bodies and having still the same brain. And the player is controlling this brain, and the brain can express himself through the body. This is deeply into the engine, and that's something you have to understand. And it comes again from something like Unreal Tournament, where you can have different characters, or you can become a spectator, just flying around. And you're still doing your controls, and you have still... Or when you are driving a car, PUBG for example, you're running around controlling a character, and then you go into the car, so you control the car. So the brain is still the same, but I exchange the pawn by the car. Okay? So we don't have to use it, but you have to understand that this is there. Okay? So what I will do is I will add a pawn, and I will do all our functionality